Hi, everyone. This is Mike Leahy. We're going to have an overview today of our cash flow forecast. And Ann Hayner is going to be joining me today. We can all shake hands over the phone. This is just a little overview. If you're new to our company, we've been in business forever. I say that smiling. We are Macola experts. We've worked with the Macola software for almost 30 years. A little bit half of that with the Synergy software. We specialize in manufacturing and distribution, and we focus on streamlining, helping you to streamline your workflow. And what brings us together today is this core competency that we have of extracting data out of your Macola database to help you make faster and better decisions. And the topic today is the cash flow forecast in terms of making better and faster decisions. These are some things that our Pulse dashboard cash flow tools offer. A traditional cash flow forecast most times calculates accounts receivable payments based on the due date, the invoice date, or the invoice due date. And that is not realistic. Customers pay whenever they're going to pay, regardless, so that each one has their own history. So we use average days to pay for each individual customer. So if one customer is 10 days late, another is on time, it'll compensate for that. We also include non-Macola cash flow entries, and that might be your payroll entries. You might have loan payments, you might have all kinds of different payments, but they're not flowing through Macola, and thus, but you want them to show as well. We also have a companion report that goes along with our cash flow forecast that is showing customer unshipped orders by week, and that helps you manage that. It's an additional report to help you manage your cash flow. Okay, so let's get over to the software. Okay, so I'm going to go over a few things, and then we'll kind of go over them again to reinforce them. But this is for those of you who are using our software already, you know that you can move these all around. And so this example that I have is a 12-week forecast. So the first thing is that these columns across the top can be weeks, they can be months, or they can be a combination of. And I think you can have 12 or 24 columns, more than you're going to really be able to work with. And then down on the side here, then you have the different categories. And as you would imagine with dashboard, you can drill down and see the underlying detail for any of these numbers. So the example that I'm giving here is this is based on everybody paying on time. And the what if example down below is what if all customers pay 15 days late? And you can start looking at this 194,000 versus 24,000. You can start looking at this 1,000,002, 1,000,002, 1,000,001, and you can start seeing how they are drastically affected. So this is really an exciting enhancement that we've made to the software. But let's talk a little bit more about what drives this whole thing in terms of how these are set up. What you do is you go to the red setup icon, we call it the red wrench, and internally then, for each, these are the categories of cash flow coming and going, and when you click on each one, so for example, the current cash balance, you would put in your one or more cash accounts. For accounts receivable, and there's different instructions on how it works. This is aging by the invoice date, plus or minus plus the average days to pay. And this right here, this offset days, that's something that we just added. That allows you to add 10 days or 15 days for a what if capability. We also, for those who prefer to use a percentage instead of an offset days, we offer that as well. And then we mentioned before that we're calculating based on the average days to pay. And my suggestion is to make that 3 months. If you make it 2 months, then there's not enough history in there. If you make it 12 months, then the current average days to pay is not really real time. So I suggest you start off with 3 or 4 and go from there. And then so you fill out for each one. Here's unshipped orders, the same thing. Accounts payable, unreceived purchase orders, purchase orders that have, or items that have been received but have not yet been paid or vouchered. Then these are entries that I talked about before. These are non-Macola entries. And my example is I have an ADP payroll, I have loan payments, and then I have monthly profit distributions. So let's go over these ones at the bottom. So again, the way that I got here is I went to the red setup icon, and then I clicked on each one, and I make sure that I'm setting this up. I think everybody who works with us knows there's different dates that you possibly can use. So you want to make sure that you're using the correct date. Okay. So in order to get these non-Macola entries here, I go up to Executive and I go to Cash Flow Entry. So I'm going to the Executive tab up here, the Executive option in the menu bar, and I'm clicking on Cash Flow. So the way that I did this is I said, this is my payroll, and I made it 150,000 as an example, 150,000 a month. And I made loan payments, and those 150,000, they were all on the last day or a couple days before the end of the month. The loan payments I set up as an example, $50,000 per month due on the first of the month. And then I had profit distributions of 100,000 due on the first of every month. And if you're having any difficulty getting this set up, please call our support desk. You go up to Help, you go up to About, and it shows you our direct phone number. This might be a little bit tough, and you just X out everything. There's no save function. You just X out of it. So again, you go up to the Executive module, Executive option, sorry. You go to Cash Flow Entry, and then when you're done, you just X out of it. It saves it automatically. Okay. Maybe a little bit of history. We started this about 8 years ago. I always joke that when we first started the software about 12 or 13 years ago, we thought we knew what people wanted, and we quickly figured out that was not realistic. That you, the customers, you knew a lot more than we knew. So what we did is we had a focus group for this when we first started this cash flow forecast. It was really interesting. People were sending me their live cash flow forecasts in Excel. So we put it all together, and then we made the mistake of not including the average days to pay. So that was a big enhancement. And so this has been very, very popular. Now with the virus scare and the virus going on, we figured we needed this what if capability. And so the way that I created this is I just made a copy. I can right click on this blue bar. I just made a copy, and then I pasted it down here. And then what I did was I went into the setup, and I went into accounts receivable, and I added 14 days. You know, what if they pay me 14? Well, I said 15, but it really was 14. And that's how I created this. And we talked before, you can drill down and see all the detail. For each one of these, you can drill down and see all the detail. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions on? I'm going to transition over to the unshipped customer orders reports. Any questions on this? It's pretty basic. When you go to the cash flow entries, this might be a little bit overwhelming. But please give us a call. These buttons at the bottom down here may be overwhelming, but please give us a call. I forgot to mention at the beginning, I was rushing around that Ann Hayner is helping today. Some of you know Ann when she worked at WISIS, and she's been a great addition to our company in more ways than just this webinar today. But Ann, do we have any questions, or is there anything that you're thinking about that I have overlooked before we transition to the open orders report?
I don't see any questions right now, Mike. I will keep tabs on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so a few months ago, we put in this what if capability and we thought, well, that would be great. And I have a few customers that I constantly bounce ideas off of, people who are real thinkers who I can just call them up on the spur of the moment and ask them what they think about this, or take a look at this, what do you think? And so this one customer of ours said, well, this is great, but this what if capability really needs a companion report. It needs the ability to have you look at unshipped orders week by week by week. In regular dashboard, you have obviously the unshipped orders, but the idea is to be able to look at it week by week by week and start seeing, are you having problems? Are you having, like you can see here, this goes from, it almost triples in 1 month. And so these are things that you need to know about. Maybe you feel uncertain that some of your customers may be delaying orders, and in which case this will automatically reset itself automatically. So what I've done here is that I've created this this custom drill down. So let's take a look at Cincinnati distributors. We're going to drill down into this. And none of you have this drill down screen. So if you'd like, please give us a call and then we will email you this. So the first line, so again, let's go over what I've done. I've just taken this, I'm drilling into this 1,000,001 number. So here's the 1,143 number, but the idea is that I need to be able to see it by week. So here's my 85,000, here's the 12,000. This corresponds back to the other screen. So what I've done, so this is my summary at the top. I've included the order total, the margin percent. These are things that are nice to have. And I just simply single click up above, and now it takes me to another drill down below, which is all the detail. So in other words, this is the summary, Cincinnati distributors, week 26, $12,000, and this is what makes up the 12,205. This is what makes up the 75. Well, this is the $85,000.
So now we do have a question, Mike. So
okay, go ahead.
You're grouping by week up here. Are you grouping based on the request date, the promise date, or the required ship date?
I am basing this. We have a field in the column chooser called request date. Request week. Excuse me, request week. You see, if I hover over this, do you see it's telling me that it's using the request date?
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So in here, at least right now, we have in the column chooser. Very good question.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could group by promise week.
Yes, we can. Right here, we have a request week, we have a required ship week, and we have an order week. So we are covering all of the 3 options that are 4 options that Macola offers: required ship date, request week, promise week, and you wouldn't want to use order week. So yes, we do have it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Wonderful, real insightful questions. Thank you. Okay. So this is one way to look at it, and actually we didn't have this before. In preparing for this earlier today, I called up Adriano and we were sort of brainstorming about different ways to show this. So we thought that this would be good to show the total up above, because it ties to these numbers above here, 12,206, 49, 29, and so on. 12,206, 29, so on. So, okay, so we created another report. So this is the simple unshipped orders by week. And if you're interested in this, these reports are all, what we do is we go to the Save and Share and we email them to a report, and then we export them and then can email them. So if you'd like this, just drop us a line. Okay, so then we took this a little bit differently and we created another report that none of you have seen because we just created it this morning. And this takes a look at, so instead of by customer, and then being able to drill, we look at it by week and then be able to drill into that week and be able to see. So let's take a look at this. I'm drilling down on this 228,000 here. It shows me that, and this is in week 40. It shows me that I have two customers, Cincinnati distributors and Florida distributors, that makes that up. And then if I click on Cincinnati distributors, then it shows me all the detail that I want there. So this is what we call our advanced screen designer. And for those of you who are on a subscription plan, this is included. If you're not on our subscription plan, you have a perpetual license. This requires the designer module. And this is what we call our advanced screen designer. So in other words, I have 3 drill downs. Let's do this again. We'll take this $169,000 in week 36. I'm going to click on here. It brings us three customers. Here's my total for the 169,000. And then I can click on anything above here. I can click and see now this screen has its own column chooser. So you can change this however you want to. This screen has its own column chooser, so you can change it however you want to. And this one does as well. So the objective of the concept of our advanced screen designer is building blocks. We took an existing report here, an existing report here, an existing report here. For example, this report is actually our open customer orders. This is our advanced screen designer. And this one is, not sure what this is. I can't see what the name of that is. So we're building these up. So if this is of importance, people like to be able to see things differently. So if I click on this Mexico distributor, they just have one order. In my case, I wanted to use the request date. You might want to use the required ship date or the promise date. Like we couldn't include, I did not include the margin. So let's go do that. I forgot to do that. I like having margins always showing. So we're going to show the margin percent, and we're going to show the margin dollars. I'm going to say OK. And these need to go over here. And there we are. This margin dollars and margin, well, the margin percent especially is very, very telling. And I could add that. Let's go add that up above here. So one thing you're seeing right now is this. Let me double click here. Down here, this margin is at the line level for this particular item, 97.27. Up here, the margin is for the entire order or all orders. I'll give you an example here. We have a ton of orders for Cincinnati distributors. This shows the margin for each one, but this is showing overall that all these orders down here have a weighted average of 60% margin. So that's part of the magic of our dashboard software, in that you can add, if I was to add the item number up above here, all of a sudden the margin would recalculate itself at the item level, or if it was just at the order level. In this case down here, it's at the order line level. So this report is available at no cost if you're on a subscription or if you have the designer module. But I think you're going to see more and more of these kind of reports where we build these together and then allow you to use the standard column chooser and customize it to your liking.
So Mike, we have a question. So for someone who is sensitive and wants to protect margin from some people, they could design one copy of this that had no margin information, maybe had no cost, just had total sales, and they could publish that to other users, reserving the margin and the costing information for themselves or upper management.
That is exactly right. And we have something even more protective for that, even more protective. I'm going to lose this information. If I go up into user control and only the administrator has user control. So I go to user control, and I go to my custom element authorization. What we did is we developed this so that if your salespeople are using the software and management doesn't want salespeople to see costing information, they only want to see them see selling information. That means that all cost information for that individual, in this case it would be this person here or whoever, would not be able to see those certain fields. On the GL security, it's another line of measure, in that what you're doing is you're saying for this person, so you're selecting the person over here on the list, they can see all general ledger account information, or they can see none, or they can see just certain accounts. Maybe it was a department manager and they want to be able to see certain accounts. So this is part of the protection. So we're using Microsoft SQL security. It is ironclad. We're not at all using, there's nothing wrong with Macola security, but we are not using that at all. And this does not have any impact. There's no correlation between the Macola security and the Pulse dashboard security. So again, custom element authorization allows you to prevent users from seeing data fields. The general ledger security is for preventing people from seeing general ledger numbers. Good questions.
Relative to the general ledger, Mike, people then by default don't see any accounts on the general ledger unless they're authorized. Is that right? They're all turned off until they're turned on. Yep. Okay.
They would all be turned off. So I'll give you another example. If this report here, which is the general ledger, I'm looking at it at an account level, they would not be able to run this report. But if they were looking, well, if they were looking at a report that was just summary information and did not have an account number, they would be able to see those. But again, without the account number or the account description, you can't do anything with it. Like this report, which is by month, they would not be able to see that. But if anybody has any questions, please, feel free to call us if you're trying to do something to enhance the security. Please, please call us. Okay. I just have to refresh these. I lost that when I went into security. Well, this is refreshing. I should mention, I mentioned at the beginning that we had a focus group, and that we are very, very serious and very we're appreciative of everybody using our software very, very much. But with that, we hope that you feel free and comfortable to give us feedback. What do you like? What do you don't like? People will say, well, this looks really nice, except, if you added a couple things, this would be really, really good. And so that's what we've been working on a day-to-day basis. People have us add one field at a time. For an example, what we're doing right now is we are developing some standard interfaces with the Synergy software. We have some custom interfaces now, but we're trying to make them more, more generic. So, for example, we use the Synergy software internally, and the idea would be that we use the Synergy software internally to track projects, to track requests. So we would go from there. Okay. Any other questions? I promised I'd have everybody back in 30 minutes or less. Did this fulfill your expectations today? Anybody have any comments, or are you seeing comments? You could unmute yourself if you wanted to.
I don't see any more questions right now.
Okay. Well, if you go up to Help and you go to About, you see Monty's phone number, and then our support desk, and several of us. Monty's on vacation today, so several of us are getting support. So you can go to either one and submit your request if you're uncertain about something we talked about today, or want a copy of something. Go from there. Okay. Thanks everybody for your support of our software, and you're taking the time today, and feel free to give us a call.
Okay.
Have a great week. Okay. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.